Namaste and greetings. I, Tripta Behra, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान, Nai Delhi, extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI Web Policy Talk. Today, we are gathered for a panel discussion on the topic India at 75, most populous, and this deliberation is a part of the State of Population and Development #Population and Development series organized by the IMPRI Center for Human Dignity and Development, CHDD. As the moderator for the session and series, we have Dr. Devender Singh, Global Studies Program, University of Freiburg, Germany, visiting Senior Fellow, IMPRI. We welcome you, sir. We are also joined by esteemed panelists for today. We have Professor P.M. Kulkarni, Demographer, retired Professor of Population Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, JNU, New Delhi. Welcome, sir. We have Professor K.S. James, Director and Senior Professor, International Institute for Population Sciences, IIPS, Mumbai. Welcome, sir. We have Dr. Sonia George, General Secretary, Self-Employed Women's Association, SEWA, Kerala. Welcome, ma'am. And we also have Dr. U.V. Somayajulu, co-founder, CEO, and Executive Director, Sigma Research and Consulting. Now, I would like to invite our moderator, Dr. Devender Singh, to initiate the deliberation with his opening remarks and to invite our distinguished panelists and proceed further. We look forward to learning from the esteemed gathering here today. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Tripta. The topic we have kept it very open, and that's why we put a question mark, so that whatever the experts think, what does it mean when we say India is going to be most populous country? And this is 75th year of our independence. So it's a significant period in the history of the country, and we are reaching a milestone in terms of being most populous country. But we are going to just to give an introduction, what has been the demographic journey? What was the population parameters when we attained independence? What was the population like? 36 crore people. What was the life expectancy? 32. And TFR, what was the TFR? It was around 6, which remained so till mid-60s, after which it started declining. This is just a brief kind of untouching, but we will hear from the experts in more details. Overall, we had the low overall development and low health and education indicator, especially related to status of women. Now, population increased 4 times, life expectancy has more or less doubled, TFR reduced to 1/3, and India is now a developing country with overall, we can say, improvement in health and education indicators, which are reflected in decreasing fertility also. And we also, as we all know, and that's why we are gathered here to discuss that as per the UN Population Project 2022, India is going to be the most populous country, going to take over China by mid-year next year. So what does it mean in terms of what kind of journey we had and what what lies in the future in terms of demographic trends and parameters. Does it have implication for our federal polity in terms of resource allocation and political representation, and how different states are going to be affected by demographic diversity, and also to discuss what does it mean for different population groups, older people, young people, people living in rural areas, people living in urban areas, living in different states, for women, for men. So we plan to discuss all these issues in this panel discussion, and we have extremely good panel today, and hopefully those who have joined are going to gain tremendously by listening to our experts. So first, as per my plan, I want to hear Professor James to make us understand what kind of demographic journey we have had and what we can hope in the future. Professor James.
Thank you. Thank you, Devender, first of all, inviting me to share my views on this panel. And I'm delighted that there are a good set of panelists to share their experience. I'm sure the other members of the panelists who are distinguished themselves in different fields will also give their own views on what is really happening on the demographic field in this country, as well as what is the future we have to look forward in terms of the demography as well as overall development. I was first looking at the title because title itself starts with a question mark. So the most populous and that I thought the title has two parts. One part is a question of size, because once you say populous, we say, okay, it's a size issues, whether actually size matters, if the population size matters for our development and other issues, how does it really going to impact the future of this country? Because that is one question. But there is also a question, you say most populous, most means it is a comparative perspective. You are really trying to look at in terms of some other place, some other country, or the other parts of the world. So we also need to really look at, on a comparative perspective, what is really happening on the demographic front. That's also very, very important. So what I thought, the time 10 minutes which I have, I will divide into three parts. The first, I will give you a broad overview of what is really happening in the demographic scenario of the world. And we'll also touch upon the comparative perspective, because we are, as I told you, this comparison is very important. Most populous gives you that trust, because we are becoming, as compared to China, we are becoming most populous. So naturally, that comparative perspective is very important. Plus, I will come back to towards the end, the India a little more carefully, because I know the other speakers also will deal with India. So, and that will give you a context of what is really happening within the country. So globally, if you really look at the 2022 UN population projection, I think there is much more optimism compared to what was really perhaps happened a few decades back on the demographic scenario in the world. Because if you really look at the total fertility rate currently, 2022 is 2.3 in the world, which is closer to the replacement level. But the world fertility doesn't decline as fast as the countries like developing countries like India or other countries. So they expect that by 2050, the world will achieve a replacement level fertility a little later than 2050. And then thereafter, the population will stabilize somewhere towards the end of the century. The end of the century, they expect that the population size will be something around 10.5 or 10.4 billion. So, which is perhaps, it's not very far from the other projections earlier, which has been done. It is slightly higher, that's this side and that side, but otherwise it is what was expected. So if you really look at the course of time, what really happened is that, each billion has been added. I hope many of you remember that the 7 billion was added in 2011 when the population census of India also was around that period, 2011, last population census. So we had 7 billion. So it means that you take almost now 12 years, a little over 12 years to really get into what is called another billion of 8 billion, which is going to happen, which is the world will achieve 8 billion by November 2022, I think a few months later. That is what the UN population projection tells you. And the next billion again will be added another 15 years. By 2037, they say it will reach 9 billion, the world. And then the pace will substantially reduce and it will take another 33 or more years to take into another 1 billion. It is going to 10 billion population, and then slightly it may increase and then it's sort of stabilize. So that is sort of a world scenario which is showing. So this is the question. Then the question is that why most populous? I think that is the next question which has been asked. Why? Because, you know, some of the concerns when the population data has been released by UN, why India is suddenly becoming most populous next year, 2023, as compared to the previous population projection of the UN, which was in 2019, which really a revision which showed that India might overtake China around 2027 or so, or 26 or so, around that period. So that has been a concern, whether is it has something to do with India's population growth trajectory, or it has why it is going, it is so, because it is within few months or years now, yeah, we can say within few months now, we are going to overtake China in terms of its population size. It's primarily deal with what is the performance of other countries. That's why the comparative perspective, if you really look at the China's population growth rate, which according to 2019 projection, which was in 2022, 23, etc., the growth rate is supposed to be 0.3, etc. But now the current population projection tells you that in 2022, China is achieving zero population growth, and henceforth from 22 onwards, next year onwards, the China's will have a negative population growth rate. So China's population is, you can say, is almost has reached its peak, 1.41 billion or slightly over that, and that is sort of the peak, and now it will only slightly decline. But India's population, you know, it will still grow, although the fertility rate UN assumes is slightly, you can say in 2022 it is 2.07 or something, which is closer to the estimates of the official estimates of sample registration system. That way, I think the fertility rate assumption, etc., is relatively correct. So what the trajectory of India tells that it will also go up to maybe 1.6 to 1.7 billion towards the next second half of the century, and then it will stabilize by 2060, end of the 2060s or early 2070s. So that is the population projection. So the early most populous remark on India is remarkably nothing to do with India's performance. It has actually perhaps to do with China's performance. That way, it is really nothing to telling about India's demographic journey. So the next question, as I told you, it is a question of size. That is the most important question which has been asked, whether size matters, because most populous, what does it really mean? Because over a period of time, you know, obviously, I think the population concern has been serious in this country for the last several decades. And we know that the overpopulation has been considered as one of the most important impediments to development in this country. I think if you read any textbook which has been taught even in the schools or even in the colleges, that has been considered among the poverty. One of the major reasons for poverty has been considered as the population size of this country. So that way, size definitely matters. There is absolutely no doubt about it. But the question is also that how is this size changing, and what is the pace of this size now moving ahead, and also what is the demographic trajectory of this country right now. So as we know, for the last few decades, India has been experiencing a very rapid demographic changes, and all the official documents, whether it is SRS, whether it is NFHS, all showing that India's fertility is already reached the replacement level fertility. So replacement level means that actually most of the population growth henceforth cannot be attributed to the fertility alone. It is mostly comes primarily because of the momentum factor, because of the past population the birth rate rather than the current, or the future growth rate. So the future fertility rate. So that way, we have relatively good understanding that the demographic scenario in this country right now is much more optimistic rather than sort of a pessimistic. And the below replacement level fertility and the future population growth, it's although will take place, it is beyond anyone's control because it is the result of the past fertility and past population size rather than the current, what is really happening in the demographic scenario. So then how do we really understand the future? That is the question, because now it is also understood that, it is not the size alone matters, but the population has also different structures, because at which age the population is concentrated will also really matters in terms of the development patterns, in terms of the country's overall development and so on. So that way, if you really take the population structure, we really understand that the population structure in this country is changing, primarily because the fertility transition is taking place. That is what we say in terms of demographic dividends, that there is a substantial proportion of the population is in the working age group, and there is a potential, that only gives you potential. There is a potential for a demographic dividend, which, if you really look at the population projection of 2022 from the UN, it's a 65% of the people are in the working age group, 50 to 59, if you conventionally define like India defines in India as well as in China right now. But in China, it is going to decline sharply. By 2050, it will be only 50% of the people will be in the 15 to 59 age group, while in India, it will decline very, very slowly. It will be, even in 2050, almost 62% or 61, little over 61% of the population will be in the working age group. So that way there is understanding a huge potential. So the population size alone is not the issue here. The change in the structure definitely matters there. So that really gives you some other advantages. So then the question which we have been asking, whether that structure changes and what kind of benefits it will give to this country, what kind of benefits it in terms of the subpopulation, whether it is in different states or whether in segment of the population, or in terms of the overall growth trajectory of this country. As all of you know, there has been different debates on this population demographic dividend. Keeping this debate apart, because since I have a limited time to get into this debate, but I have to make one or two points and then we'll stop it. Firstly, the major point is that, you see, the demographic trajectory of this country has been different, slightly different, because, this country wanted to achieve a replacement level fertility or faster decline in population growth, primarily because overpopulation has been considered as a very serious issue in the 70s, 80s, and 90s in this country. So there has been several policy push to really reduce population growth rate. And that way, we have been successful. We have been successful primarily because we have been able to convince our poor, illiterate, and the uneducated people that it is advantageous for them to go for a small family now. I think many of them has gone for it, and that is the demographic dividend we achieve now. Primarily because the people who are in the working age group at this point in time, we know that their education, their skill levels all comparatively poorer. So because of that, we also see that the demographic dividend in this country perhaps may not be as good as in many countries where actually the trajectory of the demographic transition has been slightly different. So that doesn't mean that a change in the age structure and a bulk of the people in the working age group going to give you a burden or going to give you a demographic disaster. But, this is a conscious policy decision the country has taken because we thought it is advantageous for the poor sections of the population. I think that will itself will give you a dividend, although there is a possibilities of enhancing dividend through other ways. I am sure the other speakers also will deal with it. That's the first point. The second, my last point is that the demographic changes and the demographic benefits this country is going to accrue, perhaps, will definitely come because a small family norm also gives you a heightened aspirations for the people. That's why I think some of the theories tells that, this is called a child king era, because child become so important for the family now. That is where the parents are investing on child. The government also has to put their money on the child, because finally, at the end of the day, a good education a good investment in the children will really give benefits not only to the family, but to the society and at the country as a whole. So that perhaps shows the benefits which we accrue through the demographic transition process in this country. So since my time I have exceeded by a few minutes, I think I should stop here. And thank you for the invitation once again. And it is just a very broad overview of what is really happening in the demographic scenario. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor James. And as a subsequent question later on, I'll be asking about this induced fertility transition, which we have been able to, and not the natural kind of history which we might have seen in Europe, and what could be the ramification of that later on. But before that, I will invite Professor Kulkarni to share his views on trends, parameters, and maybe what are the challenges because of the demographic transition and potential opportunities of the country. Professor Kulkarni.
Thank you. Thank you, Devender. Am I on? Okay. Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Devender and IMPRI, and James has really provided the basis for further discussions, giving the background and basically the whole concept. So what do we say when we say 75? Obviously, we have the 75 years of independence in our mind. We celebrated the Amrit Mahotsav last week. And what has happened over these 75 years? Now, a lot of discussion in the last 75 years, during the last 75 years on population, was about the population size and the growth of population, rapid growth of population. Now, population size, of course, as James mentioned, compare it to China and so on, we can get into that, but that's not really a big issue. Population of India and China will be about same for the next 2-3 years, and then Chinese population will begin to decline. So that is what we see. But discussion about the concern about population growth started even before independence. From the Radha Kamal Mukherjee report and the Bohr committee report, both of them did take into account population factor, and that population factor as one of the important ones in development. And a lot of the discussion post-independence during the planning process was on population, and the broad feeling was population is an obstacle, growth is an obstacle to development, which was broadly agreed by people, though there were some dissents, obviously. We should have dissent. So that was basically the thing. Population growth is enormous, rapid, and that is going to, not just obstruct development, it is going to lead to disaster. Very pessimistic kind of feelings were there, especially in 1960s and 70s. Over time, over the 75 years, however, things have changed. They changed gradually, not as in China, where they brought in a program in 1970 and another in 79, the one child. It didn't go like that, but over time, gradually, program and other things have brought in a change in this. And what is this change? I think my slide. Oh, yeah. Is it on now?
Yes.
Okay.
You can go
and the change, you can see here, basically, the population has continued to grow. Growth rate was high for some time. I have given it from 1900 to just give a longer perspective. However, somewhere before the end of the century, the growth rate began to decline. So there was some success in reducing the growth of population, whereas earlier people were talking about population bomb and population explosion and actually collapse of many countries, including India. Second thing, as mentioned by James, now population, the fertility has reached below replacement level, low replacement level. Our total fertility rate has come below 2.1 now and below 2 probably. And the long-term perspective, at least till the end of the century, of United Nations and many others, is that in the foreseeable future, population will reach a peak. There will be growth as mentioned due to population momentum and also due to mortality decline, which we should have. Our mortality is low, but it is not as low as it ought to be compared to many other countries. So why 70? Why not life expectancy of 80 or 85? And we should move towards that, and we hope we'll move towards that. So with the two factors, momentum and mortality decline, population will grow for some time. But as fertility is expected to fall well below replacement, we will reach a peak sometime around 2060-65. The UN, in two different editions, they have given values around between 60 and 65. And a population of about 1.7 billion or 170 crores, just about 20% more than today's population, 20 or 25. So no more doubling. And this is something which is more or less accepted. That second thing is, once fertility goes down, it has generally been the experience that it does not rise substantially. There may be minor increases, as some North European countries have seen, but broadly fertility does not increase much. And therefore, once we have reached such a stage, further population growth is not going to be large. So the big burning issue that we had in population, and almost a single issue, population growth, population explosion, doubling, etc., is no longer an issue. I think we have had a lot of discussions. There was concern. There were a lot of reactions in different ways, political reactions, administrative reactions. All of these, many of these have helped. Some did not help, of course. The society has changed, as James has mentioned. Society has also changed, not just the program. People's attitudes have changed, aspirations have changed. What people in few years ago thought things will not change, India is very traditional, bound by religion, etc., etc., etc. Now that has not come, fortunately. And overall, we are now in a happy situation as far as population growth is concerned. There will be growth, but it is not going to be much. So we can say that burning issue now, we can close that matter now almost. We can dismiss that discussion in future, though we had discussions and it was rightly so, it was required, but we can dismiss it. So we need not be so overly concerned about population growth in the future. India being most populous, yes, it's all right, that happens. India is a large country anyway. Even in the past, India was the most populous country a long time ago. Often India and China traded the ranks in the past, two great civilizations and two great populations. So this has happened, and that's not a big issue, whether we are number one or number two. As James had mentioned, China moved in a different way to reduce fertility. India did not go that way. Some people wanted to, but it didn't happen that way. So now, more or less, this is a position. And I feel, in spite of some occasional calls for population control bills and efforts, things, broadly, it is now accepted. There is a wide consensus, and I was told that even in the Ministry of Health had made a statement that our fertility has reached below replacement level or replacement level, and we need not go for any such population control bills. So that is one thing that has happened, and we can now dismiss the population size fact. But there are other factors. Population size is not the only thing. It's the structure of the population, what kind of population we have in terms of demographic and other things. And there we can see there will be changes. Population size may not change that much, maybe 20, 22, 25%, and not much more. During the last century, it quadrupled, and this century it is not going to quadruple. In fact, by the end of the century, as we see, the population may not be much more than what we have today, and perhaps even less. We don't know. We will have to wait and see what happens. So we are now in a situation where we need to look at other aspects of population. And one of the things that has been talked about very often is the issue of demographic dividend. And that basically comes because the age structure is going to change. And I've tried to present the pyramids, how age structure is projected to change over time from now onwards. 2011 was the census, and we can see gradual fattening of the population in the Middle Ages. We call this in textbooks and in demographic training, this is called a population pyramid, the age sex structure. The orange side is female, the blue side is the male population, all are in millions. So it would look like pyramid in the past, where the base was wide and tapering down up. Now, gradually we can say it will no longer look like a pyramid. So we may have to change our textbooks. And you can see now, next 3 periods, 41, 61, the bottom will be narrow or slightly narrower than the middle portion. And this is what is going to provide the dividend, both the next few years where the middle ages, working age is bulging. It will continue to bulge, but after some time, the old age population will increase, and that is something that will bring a concern. So we will have the positive opportunity of dividend, not actual dividend unless we harvest it through various things like labor force participation, greater quality of labor, greater female labor force participation, involving people in a productive manner of labor of high quality. But after that, after some time, we would be in a situation where the elderly population would increase. And you can see now it just doesn't look like a pyramid at all. It looks like some kind of a barrel which has been hit both sides. Some of these things in rural areas, you have gunny bags filled with food grains and so on, and you have something like that. So this is what is going to happen. And then that means our dividend will gradually become smaller and smaller, and old age share will increase. And thus we need to have that kind of concern rather than concern about population growth, the neo-Malthusian concern, what we had in last 50 years or so. Instead, we need to have other concerns. And now I'm trying to put 3 at different time points. The 71 pyramid almost looks like a pyramid, you can say. The age distribution, population was smaller than what it is. They're all on the same scale, incidentally. So we can see actual increase also in populations. The 2021 population is now bulging, huge bulge in the middle. But 2091 or so, or by the end of the century, there will not be bulge in the middle, but in fact, population will increase over ages. So we'll have more older people than middle-aged, more middle than younger, and so on. So this is what we are going to see. And that means, in addition to the issue of dividend, for which we have to make the best, the opportunity which we have to make the best of, we also need to look at the elderly population. Now, the share of elderly aging, what we have been talking about, is not a new issue, incidentally. It has been talked about for the last many years. Even before the talk of dividend started, talk on aging had started. Even in 80s and 90s, work had been done by Professor P.K. Binayar from Kerala, Professor Kumudini Dandekar from Pune, and so on the issue of aging. There is awareness about aging, but action has not been as much as we thought it would be. However, one good thing about this aging is that it is a slow process. Population does not suddenly age. Population ages gradually, and therefore there is time to adjust for this aging. And this is what we can say is a good thing, that we don't have to suddenly make changes. As we pass through time, age proportion will increase, and we need to have this thing. And this graph really shows the changes in the distributions. Okay, I think I'll go to full screen here. Okay. And we can see that the working age population share will increase, reach almost 70%, and then gradually come down. This is the working age population will increase and gradually come down. The young population below 15 is going to decrease because fertility has declined, and it will continue, fertility will continue to decline. So this, in fact, we have already begun the decline in this. And the elderly population is going to increase, and you can say there will be substantial increase after 2050, 60, and so on. So these are 3 different streams of population. One provides labor, basically, or expected to provide labor, that will be in a good shape in that. One which requires nurturing, support child population. Now that is going to decline, not just in percentage, but even in absolute number, child population has already begun to decline. Now, one thing that says it is that we can provide greater resources for children, both at household level as well as individual level. In fact, one of the reasons why fertility has declined is at household level, couples wanted to provide greater resources for children, support for children, more education, better education, and therefore they wanted to have fewer children. The quality quantity trade-off, bakers. But at state level, at the national level, the number of children is also going to decline. And that means the state can now provide higher quality in education, higher quality in child health care, and overall care for children. So human resource development is something that the state can do now much better, because the number of children is not going to be large, and in fact it is going to decline very steadily over the next few years. It has already begun to decline. On the other hand, again, for the elderly, the institutional care has to be brought in, because as families become small, household care, care from adult children to parents is going to be more and more difficult, because many may not have children. Since there is a preference to live with sons in many areas, that is not going to be that easy. Gradually that may come down. There have been some studies where people now have said it's perfectly all right to live with married daughters, though still the preference is there to live with married sons. And in the past, such preferences would have been very strong. But gradually that will change, so social norms. At the same time, structure will be such that there will not be many who take care of parents, and institutional arrangements have to be there. So these are the things that we need to accommodate certain societal changes. And finally, the major issue that we are going to face is the changes in the shares of states in India's population. Because the demographic transition has not been at the same pace in different parts of the country. Certain areas, southern areas, as well as some western and eastern states have been way ahead in demographic transition than certain other states. The momentum effect will be felt more in some of these areas, especially the north central areas, and therefore we will have to now see how that will change the shares of the state. And as we can see, if there is no interstate migration, some of the states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar would increase their shares by 5 percentage points. Uttar Pradesh from 16 to about 21, and Bihar from 8 to about 13. So these are going to be huge changes. So the growth in future, in the next few years, will be imbalanced growth, spatially imbalanced. And once the growth is spatially imbalanced, there will be pressures on interstate migration. It is already taking place. That interstate migration will reduce some of the imbalances that I'm showing here, because these are on the presumption that after 2011, no interstate migration. So there will be some changes. However, the streams are going to be very large of migrants from one state to another, one region to another. And this is something that one will have to be prepared for, see how to handle this. Because migration brings in problems for both migrants and often for the non-migrants also. We have seen resistance from the local population to migrants, though migrants do provide the labor which local population requires, as it has happened in Europe, that would happens in India also. So we will have this situation where the issue in future, 75 years, now that we have completed 75 years, next 75 years would not be the population growth and explosion issue that we have been talking about. The issues now will be dividend. We have stopped so much, I don't want to talk more about it. We have been talking endlessly on dividend, aging, caring for elderly, and internal balances, how to handle the imbalances, how to make the process of migration smoother, because there is bound to be huge interstate migration in the future. So I'm not really concerned now about the issue we had done in the past. We need to see what is it that is required in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I will request Dr. Sonia George to come in. And as Dr. Sonia George, as we saw, the age and sex structure, especially even today, especially after 65 years of the age, it's tilted towards the orange color. And it's going to be more and more. We could see the like bricks type of structure coming when we go to 2061 or even later. Recent data on women's workforce participation is also very alarming. And you have worked very closely with the informal sector and with women and organizing them. So please share your views on overall status of women in the context of how this population is increasing, as well as the age and sex structure is changing.
Thank you, Professor Devender, and thank you for inviting me to this very interesting discussion. With a question mark, India at 75. I think the experts before me who are demographic population experts actually place the context, means how should we look at the population and the concerns in the present scenario and for the future. And as it was introduced, I am not a specialist in demographic studies also, but I'm concentrating more on informal economy and gender. I may concentrate from a perspective that suits to my knowledge, and also means how it can contribute to the discussion that is very alarming at this stage. So I think many concerns were shared already about the changing fronts in population and how it is going to affect the nation as such in terms of its economy, in terms of its approaches, both in terms of welfare, sustenance, and all. So when you look at India's situations, we see that means almost women are half of the population, means it's 48, 49%, maybe more that could be, but almost on par with men. That is what we have to say. But maybe again, we have to, when you talk about population, again, still we only have data on the basis of men and women, but while in a society we respect other people with other sexual orientations or transsexuality or transgender right, we should have a different style of addressing even the population ratios even in this country. That's just for understanding many of the complexities that come in between. And with regard to the population, we say that means more than 48% of the population that we talk about, but there is an alarming sex ratio that is still continuing in India. Maybe it's like 920, 22,000 men. That is still an alarming data that we are always talking. We are talking it for years and years, decades. We have been talking about this alarming declining sex ratio. That is something that we always talked when we address it in a gender context. So I think how could the discriminatory rather than the laws, means how could discriminatory social norms remain pervasive in a country like India, where still the gender complexities in the society is not addressed at that level, and gender equality is not propagated in that way. We have schemes like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme, the Prime Minister or the present government was supporting for some time in terms of bringing more girl children to education. But still, how much we could reach to that point is a big question that we have been talking about or discussing. And we talk about equal access. It's about equal access to live in terms of access to property, access to resources, access to body, regardless of gender. That is what we always talk, including economic independence, economic participation, decision making, everything regardless of gender. That means equal footing in all forms of life. But this alarming data on sex discrimination, that is still something that we are talking. Maybe some states can say that we have reduced this gap, but most of the states, majority of the states, even while Professor Kulkarni has put the last slide, it's like really revealing what is going to happen in the future, and he has talked about the trends in increasing internal migration within the country. So I think when you look at the recent Global Gender Gap Index, that is the 2022 Global Gender Gap Index, India stands 35th position out of 146 countries. That is something that again the global gender gap shows. And the most maybe it was in 2012 India had a 105th position, now which it has become 135 amongst 146 countries. And when you go more deeply into those data that determine this position of India in the global gender gap index, the main reason is continuing poor performance in economic participation. That is where India stands 143 out of 146 countries. That is what is showing. And the only thing that has shown little improvement is political empowerment. That shows India stands 48, means India has 48th rank out of 146 countries. But when you look at health and survival, it's worse, even 146. And when you look at education, it is 107. So that means in terms of economic freedom, in terms of economic independence, in terms of economic equality, India is still at a very low position. In terms of health, India is at a very, very low position, which no attributes to the existing gender discrimination that persist in different forms in the country. So when you look at the population of the country, majority of more than 2/3 of the population are rural population, and most of the women who live in the rural economy, they are out of jobs in that trend. Means they don't have economic participation. And the data that which was more alarming to me was that when we look at the data that I just said was the Global Gender Gap Index that was published every year as part of the World Economic Forum. Now, when you look at the periodic labor force survey, which is happening every year and which is more alarming, means India's present labor force participation, as Professor Devender has said in the beginning, it also shows a declining trend of around 19 to 20%. That is India's urban and rural female labor force participation that is showing, and that is again a trend which we have to discuss very seriously. And amongst that, when you look at the young population of women, means between 20 and 29 ages, that is more important. Means in the 18-19 PLF's data, there are 92.4 million young women in the country, out of which only 10.7 are pursuing their education, and 9.5% are in paid jobs. Only 9.5% are in paid jobs, and 66% are in household responsibilities. So they are looking after the domestic responsibilities. And we see amongst that, even 20 to 29, more than 80% of this category are married, and amongst the married category of young women, 80% are household responsible or homemakers. That is what what the data shows, and it's an alarming trend. And when you look at a state like Kerala, which has maximum literacy and maximum higher education, the number of young women out of the employment force is much more, who are higher educated young women. So these are some of the alarming trends that we saw. So when you relate it again, to issues like domestic violence, for example, most of us young women, that is again a trend that is increasing. They are facing very severe domestic violence from intimate partners. That is again the data shows, and COVID has exacerbated this inequalities in terms of familial private relationships within the household, where the domestic violence that is increasing, and the data is in terms of violence, 1 in 5 women, they are experiencing physical or sexual violence. That is they are seeing, and girls between ages of 15 to 49 very severely reports physical partners violence. That is something that is again an alarming data. So when you look at the situations of India, from a gender perspective, what is really happening in terms of, for example, when you look at wages, there is a very severe wage gap that exists between men and women. Again, when you compare, now the present wage, it's like more than 1/7. While when you look at the gender wage gaps, women, when the gender wage gap is more than 1/7, that is, men earn 7 times more than women, who both in the formal and informal economy. But in the formal, to a certain educated group of people who are in the organized sector, maybe 3 to 4%, they may earn the same salary or the same wages. But most of the informal sector working situation in their country like India, where more than 93% are in the informal economy, and out of which a majority of the women, more than 70% of the working women in the informal economy, the wage gap is a very serious issue that we have to think about. Despite we talk about the rapid economic expansion, women have been struggling to make over. Before COVID, we have been hearing of women trying to migrate. We talk about migration a lot, but we forget the aspect of migration before COVID. So before COVID, we were working, or we continued to work for years with women who have been coming from the states that Professor Kulkarni has just pointed out, where the population tendency shows a sharp increase, passing the borders, coming to states which has prosperity in quote. They were trying to attain some kind of economic freedom, but COVID has really made these women to go back, or to force to go back and take again the domestic responsibilities. And 2/3 of the women who are out of job market during COVID, it is again shown that they are unable to come back to the labor market. That is again an alarming data. And why is it so happening? Means when majority of the men, around 90% of the men who have lost their jobs have come back to the labor market post-COVID or post-lockdown. 2/3 of the women are still out of the labor market, and they are struggling to enter into the labor market. So are there any push factors to bring them back to the labor market? We know that educationally there are some push factors, literacy-wise there are some push factors, but in terms of discrimination as a gendered being, or in terms of discrimination, means with respect to sex, with respect to financial position, and with respect to marriage in the marriage market. One of the alarming discussion that is happening is that the COVID period has made a situation where majority of the marriages are happening amongst children, young women, and that was a situation where everything was very private, and Most of the large gatherings were banned during that time, and many of the young girls who have gone back from their migrant situations got married, and they have again confined to the four walls of the houses. That is something, that data that we have shown. So the practices, against laws, that is the tendency that that India is showing. Means we have been talking about progressive laws, we have been talking about restorative, progressive public policies towards equality and inclusive approaches in terms of gender and in terms of biases. But what you have seen that the cultural scenarios are so high that patriarchy and other such conditions are caste discriminations and no societal barriers that keep women into a different sector where they are more domesticated, they are more what you call divided in terms of understanding, means or taking them away from the labor market, and also making them confined to the four walls of the house, which actually what you call strengthens patriarchal norms and patriarchal clutches in the society. So that is where the concerns of labor market participation, education, health systems, and also reproductive rights of the women. These are some things that we have to take very seriously towards future discussions when you talk about India's population going beyond 75. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sonia George. Now I'll request Dr. Somayajulu to throw light on interrelationship between population and development and role of demographers and policymakers, and what kind of institutions or bridges are there between the demographics or population studies which are taking place and the policy which is being made, and whether demographers and population scientists have played their role effectively in this scenario.
Thank you so much, Dr. Devender Singh, and thanks to IMPRI for organizing this panel discussion, and also giving me an opportunity to be on the panel and share some of my views and opinions. Thanks to my co-panelists, the distinguished co-panelists. This is the outline of my presentation. Let me start with a quote, because Dr. Devender was talking about the role to be played by demographers and social scientists, and also reaching out to the policymakers and the program managers. This is a quote from former Prime Minister, Sri Vajpayee ji. Population needs to be stabilized for sustainable development. As some of us know, the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030 has about 17 sustainable development goals and about 160 and odd indicators. The idea is that no one should be left behind, and it talks about a holistic approach to achieve the sustainable development for all. So I see the role of the data, crucial role of data, as well as the demographers and population scientists in this task. Let us look into that. Data is very important to monitor the program or programs or initiatives that are aiming at population and development and also the environment. So we need reliable information about the size, growth, distribution and characteristics of the population. Professor James and Professor Kulkarni touched upon some of these data points and all. And our focus should be to give some kind of direction to the policymakers and also the people who are involved in the implementation of development programs and schemes. And the third aspect is about the assessing the progress we are making towards the achievement of the goals, whether it is sustainable development goals or health goals or whatever goals we have for the welfare of the society and the community at large. And we also should note that adopting new information and communication technologies has a bigger role in increasing the efficiency and reducing the burden of the resources, burden on the resources. And we also have to understand the linkages between health and population dynamics. Besides efforts to understand the impact of population dynamics related factors on the sustainable development goals. Just to give an example, what are the implications of population growth in terms of the environmental challenges, whether it is global warming or biodiversity or food security and water availability. Similarly, do we have reliable data on poverty? Are we still not, debating about the estimates that are provided by different agencies about the poverty in various states and all? And then hunger, how to measure hunger? When the hunger index was released, there was so much of discussion on that, about the way the index was developed, about the variables that were considered to come out with this index. So, then do we have correct indicators with good information and variables and input data to measure the progress we are making in terms of poverty eradication or elimination of hunger and all? Same is the case with financial inclusion, health, nutrition, food security, urban issues, migrants. During the COVID period, we had a tough time to locate the migrants. Where are they located? Where are they from? What kind of lifestyle they have? What are their profile? What is the profile of these migrants? What are the characteristics of these migrants? We had no information. We had no clue. We were caught unawares. So we need data on migrants, the migration streams and all. That same is the case with the skill development and other. And we also have to talk about the state-specific issues that are relevant when we are talking about population and development. And one area could be the geographical areas that are left out from the development headway. Similarly, the people who are left behind or who are unreached, Then let me talk about the data sources. As all of us know, population census is the mostly used and very critical source of data, but unfortunately, it was affected by COVID. We are in 2022. Still, we have not, heard about the starting of the main census operations and all. Similarly, Professor James is there leading the NFHS from IIPS. NFHS is a very reliable data source, and now it is giving us district level estimates also on key indicators, not only the demographic but also the socio-economic indicators. We also have Niti Aayog and SSO and other sources are there. We have, apart from the government research sources and the government funded sources like NFHS and NSSO and all. Besides that, we have huge data source in terms of academic research, professional research, and donor-driven research. I have spent 30 years in the research and consulting field, representing the private sector. But the kind of studies we have carried out, and the kind of studies carried out by these private consulting firms and research organizations is used, across various geographies, across various sectors as well as subsectors and all. So much of research is happening, so much of data is collected, but sometimes there is duplication of the data, collection efforts, and same study might have been carried out by different agencies in different locations with different methodologies and all. So there may not be, consistency in terms of the methodology, the approach, sampling, etc. So the comparability becomes an issue. The tracking is whether tracking is possible using this kind of data from different surveys and all. That was another issue. So my point is that, do we have periodic nationwide surveys with robust study designs with acceptable data quality and reliability, with focus on state specific issues? Yes, NFHS is one source, but NFHS is not the solution for all the problems and all the issues and all. So there could be some state specific issues which are not covered by NFHS. I am talking about that. So when we are talking about the data, and all of us have the responsibility from this dimension, that's why I'm highlighting this: accuracy of the data, consistency of the data, and comparability of the data. And what kind of indicators we are using, whether it is hunger or poverty or coverage by wash or coverage with safe drinking water. What is the definition? What is the indicator used? So the percentage may go up, the percentage may come down, but what is the indicator used? What is the definition used? How accurately we are measuring that? These are all the issues that need attention, and we have to pay attention to this so that we have correct picture about the ground realities. And then another important aspect when we are talking about data sources is the issue related to open access to the existing data, so that evidence-based policy making can happen. Dissemination of the micro data with adequate safeguards, of course. The protection of the privacy and confidentiality has to be ensured. Are we able to do this dissemination of the micro level data so that somebody can further analyze that and come out with policy relevant briefs or policy relevant notes or something like that, that can be shared with the policymakers and the program managers, not only at the central level, even at the state level, and maybe sometimes at the district level as well. Then specifically, just I have only 2 more slides. I will try to confine to my time slot given. Role of the population scientists. When we are talking about development, or even population is multidisciplinary. It is not one single disciplinary subject, and the issues are multidisciplinary, and we need a multidisciplinary approach. So there, the role of population scientists, statisticians, social scientists, and the development practitioners like Dr. Devender Singh and others, it is very crucial. So this cruciality comes from the initial stage itself. Planning of the research studies. What are the research needs currently? Suppose NFHS gives us some broad trends. So from NFHS, I think sometime back, from IISP, when I was leading IISP, thanks to Dr. Devender and Dr. Sanjay and Dr. Venkatesh Srinivasan from UNFPA, we thought that IISP will come out with some research agenda, taking cue from the NFHS results, and what are the gaps that need to be filled with useful data and relevant data. And then we thought that we will carry out this and come out with some policy brief and brief for the program managers and all. But somehow we could not make much progress on that. I think that kind of planning has to happen for research studies, maybe state-specific studies or district-specific studies and all. And then execution of the studies, followed by the reporting of the results with focus on the policy and program. What is the message for the policy maker? What is the message for the take-home message for the program manager? And then most important aspect is that dissemination of the findings to the policy makers, program managers, and development agencies. Now, if it is donor driven and all, so we are not allowed to, publish it and disseminate it and all. The report has to go to the funding agency, and then it lies with them. It's up to them to disseminate or to take it forward and all. So the research agency has no role at all, hardly any role for the researchers and research agency in that process. And there, of course, the associations, professional associations like IASP, IASSH, Indian Sociological Society, and I think another association is there. Health Economist Association is there. Several associations are working in India. ISMS is there, Indian Society for Medical Statistics. Some time back, I was discussing with Professor C.M. Pandey of ISMS. There we thought that, in fact, Pop Council also suggested that. They suggested that, all professional agencies should be brought to the single platform, and so that they can, their members can disseminate the research carried out by them, and it will be a common platform for all the associations of the professional scientists in the country. So that kind of initiative can be thought of, for knowledge sharing, documentation of the best practices, and some specific case studies which are giving us, success stories. And of course, it has to be at the, not only at the national level. National level, these things happen. In Delhi, every week there will be, now due to COVID, it has come down. But otherwise, every day there will be one event in India Habitat Center, in India International Center, and Indian Islamic Center, and that Lodi Road. You go there any day, on any fine day, you will find some workshop, some conference, some seminar happening there. But what about state level? What about district level? What about regional level? Even within the state, I think I am talking about that. Here, this is an opportunity for the professional associations. Even IIPS has its alumni association, very strong association. It has its presence in every part of the country. Even at the district level, sub-district level, they are there. So I think these are the opportunities for that kind of professional associations. And then that is the end of my presentation. Finally, let me end my presentation with this quote from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It says this: Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani paschantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhavet, shanti shanti shanti. May all become happy, may all be free from illness, may all see what is auspicious, may no one suffer. Peace, peace, peace to all. That's the end of my presentation. Once again, thanks to Dr. Devender and all other friends from IMPRI, and thanks to all the co-panelists and the audience as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Somayajulu. My first question is to Professor James. And I have two questions. One is, which I indicated, that because of this induced fertility transition, we can see that there are some positive gains. Were there some negative also outcomes because of emphasis on that? Like, for example, the rate of aging is going to be quite different than what we saw in like European countries where the natural transition took place. Second, because the responsibility was mainly on the states, so some states were able to introduce program in a much better way than some other states, and we can see the imbalance. Your thought on that? Second question is, can we conclusively say now that we have entered in a low fertility era, and we need to change our psyche as well as the whole perspective towards that? As you also highlighted, Professor Kulkarni also highlighted that now the growth, size, we should stop talking about that, and we should start focusing more on composition of the population.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for these important questions, but I think I'm not very sure whether I'll be able to answer it to your satisfaction. Because the first question was, what is the negative aspects of the demographic change? Indeed, if you really speak, there's nothing negative in the demographic changes, because aging cannot be considered as a negative aspect. Aging is something to be celebrated, because an increase in the life expectancy, it is something to be celebrated, definitely. The question comes when you see that, because of the aging, the period in which you are expected to live in the disease or with disability, is it enhancing or it's increasing? Then it's become a worry. There are many countries which has experienced this problem. If you really look at the other experience of other countries, during the process of aging, there is a period, there has been an enhancement in the period in which people has to live in disability. But many countries were able to, many developed countries also are able to address it to major extent, because they were able to enhance the life expectancy along with the enhancement in the, you can say, the healthy life expectancy. That is what the concept of healthy life expectancy, etc., came into the picture. So this is possible. It actually, how do we really address the demographic changes? That is what very important, whether it is in the aging scenario, whether it is in other aspects of the population, age structure changes, or whether it is too less a number, whether it is also possible to you to enhance your working age group, working capacity, because, you know, need not be retiring at 65. If you have a healthy life, you can really enhance your life retirement age substantially. That is what many developed countries has happened. So negative or positive comes because of our own interventions, our policy level aspects. Actually, it's how do we really able to address it? It is the question whether we become positive or whether it is negative. So that way, you don't need to really necessarily say there is anything negative in it, but you know, you can really make many negative things into positive in case we are really able to intervene at the right time, at the right way. That is the first question. The second is, you know, are we entering into a low fertility scenario? We are entering into a, it's also depending on how do you really define a low fertility, because sometimes people define it's a very low fertility because, you know, when the fertility level substantially comes down. This question is often asked whether actually the country will go to a very, very low fertility, because like in many other countries or Western countries has happened. Perhaps may not, but we are not very sure about it, how far, because projection also gives you some scenarios where, you know, some of it goes to a low fertility, not very low fertility, but it can slightly bounce back. There are experienced some other countries that very low fertility sometimes bounce back a little bit, not substantially, but a bit of bouncing back extra happens. But we can say we will be in a low fertility scenario. We will be in a replacement level fertility scenario for years coming. Not really, we may not have a very substantial change, high fertility scenario. That is definitely going to happen. But we may not be in a very, very low fertility. That is also because given our culture, given our importance to family, etc., we really not able to tell what kind of future we will have in case of low fertility. But perhaps instead of saying whether we will be in a low fertility era, we can say we will not be in a higher fertility era. That may be a right way of telling than we saying that we will be in a low fertility era. Thank you.
Thoughts on those questions? Professor Kulkarni, your ideas, thoughts?
Yeah,
if you want to add something.
I just more or less I agree with what James has said, that there's really nothing negative, and aging is something that is inevitable, that's happened. European countries went through the whole process of transition in a very slow manner, and therefore they didn't get the dividend. The talk of dividend started only when the experience of East Asian countries was seen by people, and then they realized that rapid decline. European countries didn't have such rapid decline. That time there was no need, because mortality was lower than Indian mortality, but it was not extremely low when they went through the transition. Gradually mortality declined, fertility declined. So I think this really not negative. What we really need to see now is, in the past, we thought we should influence population processes. See, the neo-Malthusian approach was to lower fertility, to promote low fertility in different ways by inducing, convincing, motivating people, propagating low fertility. That we have already reached, whether because of that or because couples' own thinking on these lines. So we don't need to now do anything to influence population parameters. Mortality, of course, we would like mortality to decline. That's overall for well-being, and not just not a population measure as such. That will lead to some increase, and we naturally would like it to continue. So we don't need to influence population factors as such, but we need to be prepared for what is likely to happen in future. Fortunately, some of these things are fairly well predictable, not perfectly, but fairly well predictable. You can do such predictions in economy, for instance, whether economy will grow at 10% or 2% or whatever. But in case of population things, because we already have a population and that population will reproduce, and some of those will die. So we already have this kind of a stock with us, and future is dependent on that. So not much changes should be there. Fertility we expect to decline. Small variations or predictions could go wrong. There are different projections, but the broad lines of projection more or less says that we will reach a peak and then gradually begin to decline. May not be 2060, maybe 2070 or 2050 as some have predicted. That's not really big issue. But we need to be prepared for what is going to come. And these are the things that I think demographic analysis is helpful there, especially when it comes to projections or forecasting, whichever term you use, to see, and then we could prepare for that. So we don't need to influence population factors. We need to see what population is going to provide and then cater to that. Especially, as I said, migration. Well, cater to that migration. Cater to aging, that is going to be there. Try to make the best of the dividend, whatever is there. So this is what we need to look forward to now, rather than population control, population influence, and so on. So that language, I think we should give up completely.
Okay, related question to that, taking what you said, the population projection data, they could help.
Yes.
What has been your and Professor James' experience? How competent we are to produce that kind of data on a regular basis, and how the government and government agencies at the center and state level are receptive to listen to the demographers, or population scientists, are those who are creating data?
I think one thing that I mentioned when I was speaking, that I was told that the Ministry of Health has also taken a position that fertility has come to replacement level and we don't need kind of a population control. So they have listened to it. The data have come, not just now, data have been coming for some time, and gradually population policies have been modulated accordingly. So that is something that, what about projections? Yes, we should do a better job in projections. You know, in India, the official, what is called official projections are done after census. But last time it took a long time after census. On the other hand, the United Nations Population Division produces their world population projections or prospects, what is called, every 2 or 3 years. Now, we have census data that provides us a base, but we also get data from SRS and FHS on fertility, mortality, and other things. Now, even HMIS data might be good in the next few years. We look forward to very good HMIS data. Civil registration may have to wait, but still there is an improvement. So as and when data come every 2-3 years, we need to do projections. We need to carry out projections. We need to carry out projections to lower levels also, not just India and states as the registrar, the technical group or registrar office does, but we need to go down to the district level, because district is a planning unit and many states do want data at district level. And unfortunately, they are not produced officially. And there are some people, some are there, occasionally they are produced, but that is something that must be done rigorously. India has a good number of demographers. Each state has a population research center. Each state has a demographer who is appointed out of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare Funds. So each state has a state demographer. There is a population research center, and of course you have the IIPS. So what we need to do is, in addition to the Registrar General's office, as the World UN Population Division does regularly update their estimates or projections every 2 or 3 years, the Registrar General's office should have a cell which would do it very regularly every 2 or 3 years. And the IIPS itself could also provide a parallel estimate, because there are always these projections are obviously estimates based on assumptions. And then at the state level, the state offices should be induced or encouraged to provide estimates for states at district levels. Many want block levels. If we can go to block level, disaggregation, well and good, but at least up to district level, we ought to do. And we must take it very seriously, both the central ministries as well as the state offices. State have Bureau of Economics and Statistics, they have demographer, they have PRCs and so on. So they should do it on a regular basis. It's not difficult once you start doing it. You have your data, you go on updating. The methodology is so well laid out. You really don't have to struggle that much. But one has to collect data, put together, and work come out the results.
Professor James.
Yeah, no, you echo the same message which Professor Kulkarni has told. I think, there are a lot of, we have quite a bit of data, a lot of data is there, it has to be effectively utilized. That is what actually the crux of the message Professor Kulkarni has given. Because we have the expertise in population projection, we don't need to depend on even population projection alone. So that can be done regularly. And we have also other data sources which also needs to be effectively utilized. So in addition to that, we might also need more data, like Somayajulu has also laid out what are the requirements. But at the same time, I think there are more possibilities of utilizing the existing data much more effectively. I think that needs to be emphasized. There are possibilities of that. Because it should not be very centralized. That is the message Professor Kulkarni was telling. We need at the state level, we need at the district level, we need at the sub-district level. The data needs to be percolated down. Otherwise, I think planning, monitoring, etc. will not be effective. So that way, it's very, very important that that part of the data percolation happens and capacity is built in different places, not only at the center, but at the state, as district, and even at the sub-district.
Thank you. During the COVID, I noticed 3 instances where the planning was very haphazard and we did not have any sense of data or any access to data or any use of data. Like, for example, one was when the migrants started moving from the urban areas. Suddenly, the government, everybody was, oh, there were so many migrants, oh, they were in the urban areas, and started looking at, like, they did not know before announcing the lockdown that there are migrants, there are people who will be moving. We did not have any information on that. Later on, also experts use a lot of should in their talk, that we should have, but we did not have. Second instance was family planning services were stopped. Nobody in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare or anybody thought that these are essential services. Women are pregnant, they will be accessing services. After UNFPA advocated, then they said, oh, we need to have these services also. Third, the whole approach of kind of having national kind of lockdown also shows that the family and health system data, the disease and health system data, we did not have a very good handle on that. And rather we went for blank out kind of approach. Oh, let's have a lockdown. We cannot have proper tracking, proper tracing. So that's why I'm saying, like, we use a lot of should, that we should have this, we should have that, we need to this. But in actual, I want to ask you, as well as now Dr. Somayajulu also, what is the situation? How much government is accessing or requesting, and how much capabilities we have in the form of PRCs or the state demographer, or even at the NDMC, NIDM, whether we have those kind of data or data uses or experts in those institutions.
Thank you. No, we can look at it in a very different perspective, because one, obviously, I'm saying everyone wants more data. There's no doubt about it. The requirement of the information is very huge in any country, not only for India, but in any country, even most developed countries, but still they'll also look for more information, because any policies and programs definitely needs much more information, because we are always lack of it. And we also know, because as being a country, India, like we have limitations of the data. We have our administrative data system there's a lot to be improved. Like everything we know, our civilization system is improving, but at the same time, it's still not 100%. So all those things we really know. But with all these limitations, one way, if you really ask, the COVID also has shown something positive. We have to also understand, COVID also has shown that each day, even in the remotest private hospital, some test is happening, how many have been tested, how many have been positive. That information has been, the government was able to bring it out in the same day evening. I think that itself is a remarkable success. Although the infant mortality rate, which is happening, which may be much more known to the people, because if an infant death happens in a village, I think the entire village will know. But that information is not flowing that faster to the central level and telling, okay, today's infant mortality rate was this much, but even COVID test was being able to do it. So that way, COVID, the mortality, so the data flow in the COVID times, it is something which we need to also take in a positive sense. Although I understand that migration data has been poor, because migration data always had a problem, because it come mainly from census and it has its own limitations and all those things. So we really know about it. So there is a lot of positive in data, and we also showed that technology has a lot to do with really credible data flows and all those things. There's possibility. COVID also has shown that. So I would also take that it is not that the data system has been a limitation for any, especially in a pandemic-like situation. But at the same time, there are a lot of positives to take it from that system. And then from that kind of perspective, since we have also shown that there is also a possibility of data flowing at a very regular level at evening, we can really get that information. I think that needs to be followed up. We should not really stop that. We can really take it at the state and even the district, which you are telling, can take clue from here and then really see how to really improve the data system. It's possible. So it has shown that, because earlier we were, the complaint was private hospital doesn't give you data, but private hospital data was flowing in the COVID times. Every day we were getting, even in a test in the private hospital, the government could tell how many tests was conducted, even public and private, everything together. So there are possibilities, which is COVID has shown that it is possible. Thank you. You are muted, Devender. Devender, you are muted.
We have crossed the time limit, but I want to bring Dr. Sonia George's final question. And very briefly, if you can respond to that. What is the problem with the women labor force participation? Why it is so low in India and it's declining, and why we are not able to capture different aspects of the women's engagement in labor force?
See, the methodology of data again is questionable here, in the sense means when you look at the rural population and the gender segregated data within that, means people who live or who depend on agriculture for their livelihood, and when you look at urban scenarios where people who migrate, means as people working in the field, are very close observations reveals that many of the women who are working or who are engaged in different kinds of livelihood activities are not documented in that process. So that's a big issue, and that is the methodology of understanding work, the concept of work, wage work, paid and unpaid differentiation. All that has to be debated much more in order to reach such a conclusion on how could the labor force participation of women in India could be addressed. Because means in most of the areas, women earn much lower than the men. That means women are not considered as the primary, breadwinners or primary livelihood resource people in that context. So that means the tendency is to look them as housewives or homemakers, and that means the entire welfare approach will be based on that. So that is something I think we have to start talking about, a debate on it, and how to really include women in the development process. For example, the question of GDP, we haven't talked about the discussion or the relation between population and economy. That is very important. It means how much contribution is made by each sectors. That is again very important, that we have to take seriously. And finally, the thing that we have been, the restrictions, that was one of the questions also raised, through population control bills, and it's again a question of religion, minorities, caste, all these are linked together in the process of India, or of making India or projecting India as a different economy, different no demographic area. No, so all these issues need much important debates and also much important researches in that processes. Then only no we can really talk, or we can only analyze it from a gender perspective. That is my, because finally it's going to affect, you know, if it is population control, it's going to affect women. No, if it is attacking or targeting certain groups, it's going to affect women. No, the entire reproductive debates or social reproduction debates, it's targeting women. So how do we raise the gender questions from those issues which are very complex in the country? I think that will be very important for us to take this debate further or forward. That's my opinion. Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much. We have already discussed these, the experts have already pointed out. So this was my last slide, like what are the opportunity? One, we say that there is a potential for the demographic dividend, but how we can harness that is the issue here. And what could be the challenge in demographic diversity, like akin to 3 continents within a country with different fertility, 5 states more than the replacement level, 17 states have between 2 and 1.7, and then rest of the states in between. So there are this demographic diversity, how we negotiate that, what kind of policies and programs we have from the perspective of health, then we need to be mindful of that. Professor Kulkarni as well as Professor James highlighted that how this demographic diversity, young certain states, surplus labor force, and then aging population in others, how it's going to affect both the type of states, and how it may lead to increased migration and the issue of urbanization. So I just don't want to repeat. We have already had good enriched discussion on these points, and I hand over to Tripta and Arjun to do the thanks of note of thanks.
I'd like to summarize in few lines.
Sorry?
Would you like to summarize the deliberation in few lines if you want to?
Yes, no, that's what my last slide, that it's no need to talk about population control anymore. Now we need to think in terms of population composition, age and sex structure, and how they are going to really, affect our different population, different development parameters. So we had a good discussion, and we heard the experts on covering covering this issue from three, four perspectives. And overall, it's that we don't have to be worried about the population explosion, population control, population growth anymore. Rather, we should seriously be thinking about the population parameters. We need to have good data on that, and issues of states, interstate, they are going to be important. Migration, urbanization is going to be important. Aging is going to be important. And within aging, where this aging is taking place, in what states, and what will be the status of women within overall development paradigm, as well as within the aging, where women are going to outnumber men. And so how we respond to these are challenges. These could be also become opportunities, as Professor James said, that we don't have to see things in negative. Rather, how we negotiate with the challenges is going to decide how we as a society, we as a country are going to do in next 50 years or 75 years.
Right. So give the formal vote of thanks. Now I invite Tripta. Tripta, over to you. Please unmute.
Thank you, sir. So as we come to an end to this extremely enlightening discussion, I, Tripta, researcher at IMPRI, Impact in Policy Research Institute, New Delhi, would like to formally propose a vote of thanks on behalf of the IMPRI Center for Human Dignity and Development, CHDD. We'd like to express our gratitude to the moderator for today's session, Dr. Devender Singh. We also thank our esteemed panelists, Professor P.M. Kulkarni, Professor K.S. James, Dr. Sonia George, and Dr. U.V. Somayajulu for adding your diverse perspectives and valuable insights to the deliberation. And of course, we thank all our participants here on Zoom or on Facebook Live for participating and raising pertinent questions. We are grateful if you are watching us later on YouTube or listening to us on our various podcasts or reading our publications. I hope that you continue to tune in the future to our State of the Population Development series and IMPRI Web Policy Talks. Thank you once again, and I wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.